everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Creatives Connect webinar series. My name is Dalia Akaine, and I am super excited to be bringing us today's episode. Now, today we do not have a guest. However, we're still going to have a lot of fun as we dive into a very interesting topic, and I think one that almost every single creative, as long as you are a creative, like you've tried some kind of creative work, you've put yourself out there in some kind of way, I think everyone has struggled with this issue, and that is the art of networking at conferences and industry events. That's today's topic, and we are still under the theme of building your professional network. Now, obviously, you can see I'm all serious looking. I feel like whenever I think about like the very corporate world, I'm not a corporate girly. Like anybody that knows me knows I used to be a software developer. I still consider myself very much a software developer. So I am the kind of, wear slacks, just sit at home. I worked remotely for a very long time. So yeah, I'm not that very serious, very corporate kind of person. However, that doesn't mean I'm not professional. That doesn't mean that I don't, do serious work and I don't take my work seriously. It just means that I'm not that very traditional corporate kind of person. So if you're already thinking to yourself, I'm not that, then, we can resonate, we can vibe on that, because a lot of people aren't, a lot of creatives aren't. However, we still want to be able to network with other people. We still want to be able to attend industry events. We still want to be able to represent ourselves and our brands in a very serious way and be taken very seriously, even though we don't have a full suit on every single time, even though we're not like all suited up and like have blazers and all this jazz. Anyways, we're going to get right into today's topic because it's a very interesting one. Now, like I said, today we're talking about the art of networking at conferences and industry events. Literally the art of networking in any kind of corporate setting or in any formal setting or even informal settings, because sometimes even going to a birthday party terrifies some people. Even just attending any kind of like outing or outdoor event is like, I don't want to leave my house. I know I'm a homebody too. And I think we all have that thing where it's like, I don't want to leave my house. I'm most comfortable in my house. Nobody's asking me any questions. I don't have to say anything very intelligent, but like we have to, right? I think building your professional network is a very important part of the creative industry, just because it can be very isolating and sometimes you feel like it's just you by yourself and you don't know who to speak to. You're not sure all these things I'm going through. Am I the only one that's experiencing it? Is there somewhere out there that is equally going through the things that I go through? And this is one of the reasons why networking is so important. Another reason that networking is so important is because, to be honest, you don't really know the quality of your work until you put it out there. You are always going to be your best, will I say, advocate or cheerleader. When you think about any kind of creative work, photography, graphic design, whether it's putting an artwork like the one behind me, putting it together, when you do something just by yourself, to you, first of all, you have the category of people that are going to be like, oh, is this even really nice? Does this make any sense? And they're criticizing themselves. They don't even know that what they've done is good. And then you have another category of people that do absolute, we won't say it's rubbish, but we know it's rubbish. They do not their best work, but because they're not putting themselves out there, in their minds, they're doing something amazing. Have you ever had that feeling where it's like you baked a cake or you cooked food, and to you, your food is like the best thing in the world, but then you give someone else to taste and they're like, oh, I've had better. So that's another very good reason why we absolutely need to network. We need to meet other people in our community, because I know it feels a little daunting and it's challenging, kind of like, oh, I meet someone that is better than me. But yes, absolutely, that's how we grow. I am always one to say that competition is not a bad thing. In fact, I always look at competition as a very good thing, because it challenges you. It helps you to improve. It helps you to grow in whatever that you do. So those are just some of the reasons why, networking is so important. Today, I'm going to be walking us through 5 tips, to be a better networker, to absolutely crush your next networking event or next conference or next industry event. But first of all, we're going to go through some of the challenges, the most common challenges and issues and struggles that I see that creatives have when it comes to networking at, conferences or these industry events. Are you ready? Let's get started. Now, before we get started, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Be sure to, set the notification, turn the notifications on so that you are always notified anytime that we upload a new video. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us across our social media channels. It's Tristhetics across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, I think everywhere. On TikTok, it's the Creators Academy. So we'll have all of that linked in the description below. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and let's get started. So we're going to get started with the very first challenge or issue that I know that a lot of creatives face, and that is the fear of rejection. This one, it hits deep. And I'm just going to go right off and say that this is a natural human feeling. It doesn't matter whether you're a creative, whether you're in the corporate world, wherever you find yourself. In fact, it's normal, right? It is a problem if you don't have a fear of rejection. I think that's like borderline narcissism or something. I'm not too sure. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'm just trying to say that every single one of us, we do have an innate fear of rejection, especially when you're putting yourself out there. It is very normal and natural to be like, oh, what if I show somebody this thing and they're just like, this is rubbish, like this is trash. It's the same feeling that, people have when it comes to relationships, when it's like, oh, a boy is trying to ask out a girl and he's like, what if she turns me down? What if she just screams or laughs at me in the worst way possible? We all have that innate fear of rejection. Now, like I said, this is something that you shouldn't feel like, oh, it's just me. I don't know how to deal with rejection. Every single one of us, we have that fear of rejection. Fun fact, how do you now get over your fear of rejection? Now, there are small things you can do and there are big things that you can do. A small thing that you can do is to kind of practice in your mind and ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? Think about it like in a realistic scenario. It's someone going to stab you because you went out and spoke to them? Is someone going to scream at you? Like literally think about it in that regard of, what's the worst that can happen? And then if you can change that up again and think, what is the best that can happen? So I attend the networking event, right? And I'm seeing other young creatives there just like me, and I'm thinking I want to go up and talk to these people. Some people already know each other, obviously, so they are having a blast, just laughing and chatting up, and I'm sitting there by myself. I don't know anybody here, and I'm kind of going, but if I just walk there and everybody's just staring at me like, who is this one? What is she doing here? What is the worst that can happen? Now, the worst that can happen, obviously, like I said, is that they can maybe ignore me. They can be a little bit rude to me. They obviously cannot insult me. But then what's the best that can happen? I can make new friends. I can make potentially new clients, new partners. Some of my best friends, I have met them in like a corporate setting or like an industry event. So think about that, right? If you kind of switch it over as to what's the worst that can happen versus what's the best that can happen, that is a little way that you can kind of help yourself get over that fear of rejection. That's a small thing you can do. Now, a big thing you can do, and I say it's a big thing because I know it's not easy, is to start putting yourself in situations that you could get rejected. Before you go to a networking event, consider little things like, okay, I'm ordering food at a restaurant. What if I just walk over there to the waiter and be like, oh, can I get more napkins? Or, just asking, putting yourself out there for like requests. It doesn't have to be a crazy request, but just putting yourself out there and making requests where people can decide to reject you or decide to just go with it. So that's a big thing. And the reason I say it's a big thing is because obviously it's not going to be easy for a lot of people. It's just kind of saying, just do it. And I know that for a lot of people just say, just do it. It's not, but if you've ever really dealt with the fear of rejection, you know that it's not easy. It's not just like, oh, just do it, just go out. And I mean, if it were as easy as just go out and do it, a lot of people would have done it. But some people do have a genuine fear of what if I go there? What if they reject me? What if it doesn't turn out the way that I think? And I think the most important mindset when it comes to a fear of rejection is to realize that 99% of these things are just going on in our heads. A lot of times you have no proof that you're going to be rejected, right? Even if you have tried something in the past and you were rejected, this is a new situation. So you don't have any proof to show that you're going to be rejected in this scenario. And we need to remind ourselves of that a lot of times to say, okay, but all of this is going on in my head, because a lot of all these fears and struggles that we have, again, it's a mindset thing, and we just need to condition our mindset towards success rather than fear. So that's the very first issue. The second challenge, struggle, issue that so many creatives deal with is imposter syndrome. And this is a big one. I'm telling you right now, like, imposter syndrome is, I don't want to, swear on here, but it's the B word. It is absolutely horrible. And the reason why it's horrible is because, again, it's a mindset situation. What imposter syndrome does to you is that it tells you that you are not worthy. It tells you that you're not good enough. It's like, oh, who is this person? Like, when did you start that you think you want to be showing off? What do you even know? Maybe, okay, you sold one portrait, right? You did a portrait and so you are just lucky. Like, you are a fraud and people are soon going to catch up with you. Those are the kind of things that's the kind of conversation that goes on in our head when we're dealing with imposter syndrome. If I tell you how much I have dealt with imposter syndrome in my life, I dealt with imposter syndrome up to the point in my business where I would be making thousands of dollars. I'm not joking, thousands of dollars, but yet in my brain, something is telling me, you're just lucky. All of these things is just, they're going to find out very soon that you are a fraud. And it's so crazy to imagine, telling ourselves that in our brain, because it's like, no, you are not a fraud. People are not stupid that they are paying you a lot of money to do something, or even if you work in 9 to 5, right? And you are dealing with imposter syndrome, kind of going, you've gotten this new promotion. People are going to find out that you're a fraud. It was even a mistake that they promoted you. Now that you've been promoted, people are going to find out that you really cannot do this job. It's not true. It's a lot of lies that we tell ourselves. And that's the thing about imposter syndrome, is that when those lies show up for you, it is proof that you are actually not an imposter. That's the irony of it. 99.9, I would even say 100% of the people that actually experience imposter syndrome, they're not imposters. They're not. Because think about it, fraudsters do not have imposter syndrome. If you've ever seen anyone that does 419, like the real criminals, they don't have imposter syndrome. They don't bloody care. They're just going to do whatever it is that they want to do. The fact that you are having imposter syndrome is proof that you are not an imposter. That's the irony of it all, right? So whenever you do have those kind of imposter syndrome thoughts coming up for you, I want you to remind yourself that you were put in this position for a reason. If it's a business that you run, you are running this business, like you actually showed up. Excuse me, like I worked hard, I worked my ass off to do this thing. I know that I'm not an imposter. All of these people that are paying me, so much money, they are not crazy. I'm not brainwashing them. It's not, it's not jazz, right? So we need to remind ourselves when it comes to imposter syndrome, it's a very tricky one, because again, sometimes you can kind of be like, oh, I was just lucky. Maybe it was just, I just did it sharp. I just submitted it. Oh, I'm just lucky. But 99% of the time, like I said, the fact that you are having imposter syndrome thoughts is proof that you are not an imposter. Because people that actually are imposters, they do not have those thoughts. They are not sitting down, a criminal is not sitting down thinking, oh, I feel, I did not earn this money. I just took this money from somebody else. They don't bloody care. Nobody. They're just going to move on with their lives. So the fact that you have imposter syndrome thoughts is proof that you are not an imposter. And how do you kind of counter those thoughts? Is by reminding yourself that you've worked hard. You put yourself in this position. If you are sitting down in a hall full of all these amazing people, you're thinking, oh my God, that person is an influencer. They have 500,000 followers. This other person has 200,000. This other person has me. I'm sitting out here. I don't even have a social media account. And this is something that's happened to me actually. So many times in my life, I've been in situations, positions where I'm seated next to bloody amazing people, and I'm sitting there kind of going, did they make mistake? Like, am I supposed to be here? Should they send me home now? Right? Like, but then I think about the fact that, again, our measure, the way that we measure success, and a lot of times the way that we think about success, it doesn't necessarily, have to be exactly how someone else measures it. So again, these are mindset things. Just because you are thinking it doesn't make it true. Just because it's popping up in your head like, oh, did it? It doesn't mean that it's actually true. And I think another very important reminder for us when it comes to imposter syndrome is that all of these things are in our heads. There's nobody else that's looking at us and thinking that thing. There's nobody else that. And another very important reminder is that so many people feel imposter syndrome. You have no idea. There is a common misconception that when someone gets to a level of success in their life, they're not going to feel imposter syndrome again. It's like, okay, when I'm finally at 500K, I'm no longer going to feel like a fraud. It's not true, because for every level that you get to, you're still going to be doubting yourself. If you started off as just an executive, okay, marketing executive, and you're feeling imposter syndrome at that stage, when you get to maybe junior marketing manager, and now you're like, oh, am I qualified to be here? Should they have promoted me? And then you get to senior marketing manager, still the same thing. So it's different levels of imposter syndrome. But again, still coming back to the reminder that just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. And there's a very valid reason why you are here. I think we need to start having reminders in our brain to counteract the thoughts of you are a fraud. It's like, absolutely no, I'm not a fraud. I can still remember the nights that I did not sleep. I was on my laptop working, right? So start reminding yourself of those things. Start reminding yourself of the time that, you had a migraine because you had not eaten for 5 hours because you were trying to finish up this client's work and send it to them. You have worked bloody hard. You need to, remind yourself of that. So that is the second issue. The third issue or struggle that a lot of creatives face when it comes to networking is limited experience. And this is a very real one that is not necessarily a mindset thing, right? The previous ones we spoke about, fear of rejection, imposter syndrome. These are all mindset struggles, so to say. Limited experience is not a mindset thing, it's reality. And if I can just very plainly say, the way to tackle this issue or tackle this struggle is to get the experience. It's like when people talk about, oh, you need 5 years of experience, you need 3 years of experience. Now, contrary to job experience, where someone is asking you for 5 years experience, where you're just starting out and you're like, how can I get experience if you don't give me the opportunity to get experience? This is one that you can actually do without anybody's permission. You don't need anybody to hire you. You don't need anything. You can literally start immediately. We're going to link a couple of, I would say, networking platforms or sites that you can check for. One very common example, I think, is called Meetup, Google Meetups, and there are so many others. Go to all these event platforms. This is why networking within your field is so important, and talking to people, even if it's online. Like, look at the most popular communities, right? And look for events. If you cannot afford the paid ones, go to the free ones. You absolutely need experience when it comes to networking. And that doesn't mean that, oh, you need experience in terms of you're going to gain anything. No, but the more you go to networking events, the more you're going to feel comfortable, the more that this fear of limited experience is going to go away. Because when you start networking the very first time, it is going to feel scary. Don't even doubt it. I don't know who that person is that just was a boss and cruising through. Maybe they exist. I don't know them. But every single person I know, myself included, struggled with limited experience when they started out. Limited experience just means you're at the place where you're going, I don't know, what do I do there? How do I get started? And if it's a very, I would say, sensible, maybe that word is too harsh, but if it's a very modern events, they actually know that, people have limited experience and they would guide you to the process. So guide you through the process. So a lot of times when you go to a networking event or an industry event, they kind of tell you what to do. They'll say, oh, stand up, talk to other people, tell somebody by your side your name, and then the other person tells you their name and that kind of a thing. Sometimes they'll have smaller breakout groups where you have an opportunity to talk to people for an extended period of time. So some events will do that. However, some won't. And for those that won't, you're going to have to do it yourself and figure it out yourself. But the most important thing is to just start putting yourself out there. So this is one, like I said, that it's not a mindset thing. It's just a matter of when you have limited experience on something, it means you need to get more experience. And this is not like a job situation where you need somebody to hire you. No, you can literally start right now. After this video, after this webinar, you can literally start right now, pick up your phone, find the community events that's not too far from you and start to attend these. If you have the excuse of, oh, I can't afford, this one is paid, this one is paid, there will 100% be a ton of free events that you can attend, right? So don't wait for someone to give you permission. Just go out there and start talking to people. And then the final kind of struggle or issue that so many creatives face when it comes to networking, this one is very personal because I am a very strong, well, I wouldn't even say I used to be a very strong introvert. And that's the irony. I'm going to touch on this a little bit, but I'm going to share my experience. Now, I think from like my early 20s, even from like 18s to like early 20s, I literally convinced myself that I was an introvert. I said, strong introvert. A lot of people that see me on camera now creating a lot of content, doing all these different videos and stuff, they are wondering if it's the same person, because I swear a couple of years ago you could not catch me on video for anything in this world. I will be out of there so fast. Like once I realized that it was a video, I'm like, nope, hell no, you will not see me. I was terrified of being on video. I was terrified of networking, of meeting people, because I convinced myself I'm an introvert. Now, however, I'm not going to now go to the opposite and say I'm an extrovert. No, I consider myself someone that has both introverted and extroverted tendencies. Like there are situations where I can be as extroverted as possible. I can jump up and down, I can talk to people, I can make friends. My social battery is way up. However, I still have my introverted tendencies because I swear my social battery will just zero, flat line, and I need to get out of there. I'm like, I'm done with this right now. I need to go home. Right. So I'm just trying to say sometimes we're the ones convincing ourselves of certain things. Now, it is possible that truly and truly you are an introvert from the beginning to the end, right? Some people are like that, where they have not one shed of extroversion in them. They're just fully introverted. And that's also fine, right? There are ways to network, meet other people, carry yourself at industry events where you don't necessarily need to be extroverted. Introverts have friends too. Introverts can make friends too. It's not that they are afraid of people. It's just that their social battery is very much, it's not as strong as a lot of people. Extroverts kind of rely on that external energy. They're talking to people, they're having fun. Introverts need to be indoors first and let their social battery charge up, and then we come out and it can drain very quickly. I'm not about to give you I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know. I'm not about to give you a lecture on introversion versus extroversion. However, I do know that a lot of creatives would consider themselves introverts and say, oh, I'm very introverted. I don't know. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to talk to people. It's draining my energy. Absolutely, yes. But that is why you need to know how to handle yourself. And that's another thing with social anxiety. There were times in my life where I had the worst kind of social anxiety. I would literally just lock myself indoors. Even the thoughts, Even the thought of like going out and then having to deal with, oh, how are you and what's going on and all of that long story is just like, I'm already tired before I even get there. So it's just no. The first and most important step when you have these kind of issues or struggles is to realize it and be like, okay, maybe that's why I don't really go to networking events. Maybe I do have social anxiety, or maybe, I am very introverted where I love to stay indoors and then meeting new people drains my social battery. That's the first step. You need to just realize it. The second thing is to then start to find little steps that you can take. The most important thing I can say is little steps. Don't push yourself too much, because what happens a lot of times is that people try to go from A to Z and they push themselves too much and they just crash. It happens a lot of times. What you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're taking little steps, step by step, towards meeting new people, networking, so that it doesn't feel like you literally went from 0 to 100. Just take it easy on yourself. Whether that means, okay, if you've never been attending networking events, can you try to start doing one every quarter or one every month, or even if it's 2 times a year, doing that step by step? Or if you are not used to, or if you don't necessarily enjoy being in the midst of so many people at the same time, maybe you can start with one person. And that's something that really worked for me. Is a lot of times when I started to go out to these networking events, rather than just putting myself in the middle of 5 different people that already know each other and they're friends, and I'm stuck there like, I don't know what to do, I would pick one person, because I can guarantee you 99% of the time there's one person that you can find that you can kick off a conversation with. Start with that one person. Try to talk to them, try to find a common ground. If you have nothing else to talk about, this is one that I can guarantee you works. Talk about the fact that you don't know anybody else there. And sometimes, a lot of times, in fact, that other person probably doesn't know anybody there. So now you know each other and now you're friends. It works. Believe me, it works wonders, right? Even if they know other people there. But just the fact that you are opening up a little bit, and this is something that I'll touch on when we get to my top tips, just the fact that you're opening up to this person, except that person is an absolute asshole, they would appreciate the fact that you're opening up to them and you're talking about the fact that, this is kind of, I'm new here, I don't know anybody. You can even ask them, do you know anyone here? How did you, find out about this event? How did you register for this event? Kind of pick up little by little. That is the most important advice that I can give to anyone that struggles with social anxiety and introversion. For some people, they may need to get professional help, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. These are real issues and real things that people struggle with. So don't ever feel like, oh, because I need to get professional help for social anxiety, maybe something is wrong with me, or like nobody else has that problem. 1,000,001 people have social anxiety. You have no idea. So please do not ever feel that stigma. When we spoke about mental health a couple of months ago, do not ever let that stigma of mental health kind of hold you back. If you do need to get professional help for it, but not necessarily everyone needs to get professional help. For some people, just taking those little step by step, action steps can actually help them. It's not like you're going to snap out of it, right? I'm not saying, oh, you're going to go from being an introvert to being an extrovert. No, it just means that as an introvert, you are still who you are. You are now finding ways that work for you to be able to go out, to be able to network, to be able to meet other people, to be able to connect with other creatives in your industry. So those are the 4 top challenges that I've seen in my experience and with other creatives as well in our community that they struggle with when it comes to networking, when it comes to industry events. So let's get into my top tips. Coming from someone that, like I said, used to be deathly scared of even just being in front of people, I would be shaking. I don't even want to get into. I remember this one particular event where, oh my God, I was like, my hands were actually shaking. And when I start to shake, I start to go, and you're trying to breathe and you're trying to catch your breath. And you're just wondering, my God, I could have been in my house right now. Like, who sent me? What am I doing here? Right. So that used to be me, to now someone that I think I've stood in front of thousands of people before. I don't even know what the limit is. I think I've stood in front of 5,000 people, probably more than that. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, crowds are not my problem anymore. Standing in front of a camera is my problem anymore. I'm actually a very shy person naturally, like just in person. But I've kind of found ways around networking that I'm just like, okay, is that going to be 500,000 people? I'm joking. I still have moments when I shake, believe me. But yeah, just some tips that I know are going to help you. So the very first one is to practice with smaller and more comfortable groups. This is an important one, especially if you are someone who just has a thing with corporates. Some people are actually very good at networking, right? So just not in that very corporate, very serious setting. If you see them with their friends, they are chatty, they're lively, they're all over the place, they're having fun. But it's like when you now bring them out of their niche and put them in a situation that they're unfamiliar with, they're like, oh no, I don't know what to say. I don't know where to start. I'm, mumbling my words. I have no idea what's going on. Practice with smaller and more comfortable groups. What that means is that try to see if you can have serious conversations with your friend group, for example. Try to see if you can have, because a lot of times, even with our friends, we're just like, now, like, we don't want to get into the very serious things. Try to see if you can have a little bit more serious conversations with groups that you feel comfortable around, whether that is one friend or three friends or five friends, whatever it is, but just smaller groups. Before you get to a point where you are surrounded or you're in a room full of 50 people, start by being in a small space of one person or two people. So that's my very first tip, is to practice with smaller and more comfortable groups. Your people. I always like to say, try to find your people, the people that understand you, the people that even if they judge you, you don't even care. We all have friends like that no matter what they say, we'll just laugh it off. It's funny. It's not necessarily going to hurt us. So if it's a fear of rejection we have, you see how you can now begin to deal with or tackle that fear of rejection. If my friend just says whatever, I'm like, I don't even care. And you can kind of move it on. The second tip I have is to make friends online. Now, I will be the first to say that, social media, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Anybody that knows me knows this, because it is literally my job. I'm a digital marketing person. So a lot of things that I do involve social media. I am on social media every single day, besides Sundays, for work, so I can say, oh yeah, sometimes it's not our best friend. Sometimes it's a little bit too much. Sometimes it's kind of makes us go a little bit crazy when we're just on this like scrolling loop. Like I think they call it doom scrolling, where you're just like scroll, never ending. However, I will acknowledge that social media has done a lot of amazing things, especially for creatives, especially for community building, because I know for a fact that for some people, it's not easy for them to make friends physically. Some people don't even have that opportunity because, okay, maybe there isn't a lot of physical events going on around you. Maybe you are in a place where there's not a lot of people that are kind of like you around you, right? So it may even be easier for a lot of people to make friends online. In fact, to be honest, it's easier because when you think about online, you're not dealing with the eyes that are staring at you. If it's just chatting, you can chat with someone, you can be very comfortable with them without necessarily the fear of their eyes peering through their skulls and just looking down at you. So if there's anything that you can start to do for yourself to feel much more comfortable in your skin, to feel much more comfortable in a networking situation, is to make friends online. I think I had, especially when I moved to digital marketing, I joined an online community of business owners, female business owners, and it was one of the best things I ever did. I was making friends from the UK, from the US, from Canada, from Australia, literally all around the globe. And I had not even made that many friends in real life, like not friends, like, like industry friends, so to say, because I was very new to digital marketing. All of my friends were more of developers, they were designers, they were more in that like tech space. But now I was coming into this place of marketing and social media and ads. It was very new to me, and I had no idea where do I start from, who are the people in this space. But just joining that online community really made a huge difference for me. And even on that note, it's one of the reasons why we prioritize community building here at Tristhetics, not just at Tristhetics, but even for this Creatives Connect series. So if you haven't already, please be sure to join our Telegram community. It's going to be linked down in the description. But yes, community building, online community building is very important because of how easy it is. Just literally following someone or adding them as a friend, and now you're chatting and you're talking about different things. It can be as deep as you want it to be or as shallow as you want it to be. If it's just a matter of, hi, good morning, what's up with you? Have you been to... I remember I had an accountability partner, and a lot of times what we just talked about was, have you listened to any podcasts you enjoyed recently? Have you read any books that you enjoyed? What's going on in your country? What's going on with you? You kind of build up from there. It doesn't always have to be the very deep stuff. Now, to be honest, we did get to a point where we were very comfortable sharing the very deep stuff, but we had to start from somewhere, because really a lot of people would even find it creepy if you just make friends with them and you start talking about it's like, no. Start from, there's nothing wrong, with starting shallow. And that's another point that I wanted to touch on. When it comes to making friends, is just so many people have this idea of what friendship looks like in their heads, that when it's not translating to that in real life, they feel like it's not a genuine friendship. There's nothing wrong with starting shallow, if we can even quote unquote call it shallow, right? There's nothing wrong with starting from, how are you today? What's the weather like? People over in like the UK and Ireland, they're always about like, how's the weather and things like that. I know in Nigeria, we don't talk a lot about the weather because it's the same every single day, but just pick up on the smallest bit of conversation, the smallest bits that you can just be like, what's going on in your life recently? How is your business? I think especially for creative business owners, the most kind of important conversation that you can have is about their business, right? What is going on in their business? You can even take it a step further, go to their profiles, look at what they're doing, and now you are equipped with so much that you can talk to them about. If you follow up on their stories, what are the kind of things that they are posting about? If they are not even posting, you can then ask, is everything okay? I noticed that you've not been posting recently. The best advice that I have gotten about building friendships is to be a friend yourself, because so many people, they want friends, but they themselves, they are not coming off as friendly, right? You want another person to be the one to do all the hard work. Why can't you do it? And to be honest, it's not to say that, it has to be one person. A beautiful friendship is when both people are putting in the work. So don't always be the one sitting down expecting other people to make friends with you. Stand up and go and talk to someone. It's the same thing that happens in the online space. Follow people, send them messages. Don't be the one that's just sitting down kind of going, oh, they followed me, so they need to text me first. What is this, primary school? Nobody cares. Like, text people and talk to them, because at the end of the day, those are the things that matter. It may seem like it's just a little gesture, but it goes a really long way. My next tip, and just like I've said, is to be a friend first. This is probably one of the best advice that I received, and it's the best advice that I can give you today. If you take anything out of this webinar at all, it should be this one. Always think about being a friend first. Before you sit down there in a conference room or in a meeting and think to yourself, oh, other people should come and talk to me. Why can't you go and talk to someone else? Why can't you just put in that little first step in walking over to someone and just saying, hi, my name is this. introduce your business, introduce whatever it is that you came there for. Like I explained earlier, one of the simplest and easiest ways to start up a conversation is by asking, do you know anybody here? How did you get here? How did you find out about this event? How did you register? Just things like that, and kind of build it up from there. You can literally talk about anything. Now, obviously, respecting people's privacy and not being a creep. But I think a lot of times we overthink these things, and we're sitting there kind of feeling sorry for ourselves and thinking about all these problems that we have. Like, I'm so scared to talk to people. I'm feeling very anxious right now. I don't know where to start. It's like, just stand up and talk to somebody else, right? Maybe even just look at someone and smile. And some of us, we have this, I know this because I do it. Some of us, we have this look and this face where we're just sitting down there kind of going, it's either we look terrified or we look like nobody in this world is higher than us and we're just like at the top of the world or something. Humble yourself. And I think this is a very important tip, especially, when you are trying to put yourself out there. Realize that even in a friendship, both parties stand to benefit. You are going to benefit from this network or this event or this friendship as much as someone else. So what is the point of just sitting down there and just kind of going, oh, they need to be the one to come and talk to me or blah, 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 and all of that? It's very strange. So as much as possible, you want to try to be a friend first. My next tip, and this is one that I had to even learn how to do your research. What I mean by this is that when you have an event, a networking, an industry event that you are planning to attend, go a little step further to find out who are the speakers, who are the kind of people that are attending this event. Sometimes these are no-brainers, right? If it's like a networking event for photographers, that's a no-brainer. You know that you're going to be surrounded by photographers. But in doing your research and just finding out little bits of information about this event, you're kind of giving yourself speaking points. Because, okay, if I know I'm attending in an industry event for photographers, for example, now I can kind of think about, maybe I ask them, what kind of photographer? You're a wedding photographer, a portrait photographer, what kind of photography do you do? Oh, when did you start your business? Oh, do you live by here or did you travel to come? If there are speakers in different fields, you can, how did you find this speaker? Oh, did you know that this speaker used to... Do you see where you are just going to have endless conversation because there's always going to be something to talk about? Where people struggle a lot of times is that they've done zero research. They just showed up. It's just like, I just came here to just see. Now, if you're someone that is already solid at networking, you do not need any help. Maybe you do not need to do research every time. You just show up and it's okay for you. But for the rest of us that we're still trying to improve our networking, we're still trying to get better at networking, I definitely think that this is one tip that you should not take lightly. For any event that you're going to, it doesn't take you 10, 15 minutes to just look up if there are speakers at the event, if there's a panel, or depending on what kind of event it is, just do a little bit of extra research to find out who these people are and things like that. And then, like I said, if you know the kind of people that are going to be at this event, now you have a little bit, I would say, more knowledge as to what you can talk to them about, who they are, so that you don't go to... So, for example, one of the, I used to attend a lot of Andela and Google events for like software developers. And imagine going to this event and like asking someone, oh, are you a photographer? It's like, excuse me, are you at the wrong place? Of course, this person is not a photographer because this is a software developer event. What you're going to be, or who you're going to be seeing here, are like front-end developers, back-end developers, automation engineers, and things like that. So do your due diligence, do your research, and in finding out who are the people that are going to be at this event. And the final tip or strategy or whatever I want to call it that I have for you when it comes to the art of networking at industry events is to be authentic. there is no blueprint. I'm going to say this right now. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of the corporate world. There's no blueprints. There is no scripts, right? That you have to sound a certain way, that you have to be a certain way. And it's one of my own personal, it's like a personal beef that I have with a lot of corporate agencies. They don't sound human. They sound like AI. It's like AI generated kind of, oh, you have to sound this way. You have to say all these buzzwords that nobody cares about. In reality, people crave genuine, authentic human connections. I'm telling you, even at these events, right? Even at those very serious looking, everyone is wearing blazer kind of, events, people are still craving honest human connections. So don't go into such events with the thoughts that you need to sound a certain way, you need to look a certain way. If they have a dress code, that's all well and good. You can follow. Is it a black tie event, a gala, whatever it is? If it's just like casual, like business casual, okay, dress respectful, dress well, I know we all have this kind of thought of, they say dress how you want to be addressed. Yes, but that doesn't mean that you need to look like, like you are some kind of Fortune 500 founder or something like that. No, dress how you want to be addressed just means you can dress respectful. You can dress in a way that, will I say, is pleasing to the eyes. You can dress in a way that is comfortable for you, where you feel comfortable in your skin. Because I swear, some people go off and wear certain things that you can just tell that they want to rip those clothes right off their bodies. So as much as possible, be authentic. What that simply means is that don't hide certain parts of yourself just because you are. So, for example, if you go to an event and they're serving a certain kind of meal and it's like, oh, I don't want to show myself that I know how to eat this thing. Or if they're discussing a certain topic and just because you don't want to come off as being a certain way, then you're like, no, I'm not going to. As long as you are being respectful, as long as you are being ethical, as long as you are mindful of, other people around you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with speaking your mind and just being authentic, because I can guarantee you, people want to form genuine, authentic relationships. People don't like, as I know that AI is popular, right? But still people don't like AI. It's like banks, right? A lot of times when people call customer service at the bank, do they want to speak to the voice that says, for English, press 1? No, they're like, I want to talk to a human being. I want to speak to someone that will understand all of the English I'm explaining. I want to speak to someone that can hear the emotion in my voice, and it's not just going to give me some random, answer that they've already pre-programmed. People crave genuine, honest human connections. So as much as you can, you need to be authentic and be authentically you. And with that, that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you're able to pick one or two things out of it. As I said before, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so that you know when our next episode is coming on live. We always announce it ahead of time across the board on our social media. So that's definitely something that you need to, if you haven't already, go and follow us everywhere. I'm super excited to bring us this one because, like I said, this is one that is personal to me. Let me know in the comments, do you struggle with networking? As a creative, as an individual, what are the things that you struggle with the most when it comes to building a network of your people or building a network around you? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you found today's episode helpful. Let me know what topics that you would like us to speak on next, and if you have a guest expert that you would like us to bring along to join this webinar series. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.